Hello, my name is Thomas Pashik, and today we're going to talk about your argumentative essay. An argumentative essay is a great opportunity for you to learn the skills of argument. Too many people think that an argument is just two people yelling at each other and whoever's the loudest wins. That's not the case. There's actually a format to it. There's a skill, there's a set of skills that you can learn. And throughout the process of this class, we're going to teach you those skills one step at a time. So even though it may seem a little bit overwhelming at first, if you follow the weekly plan we have set up for you, you're going to be fine. I found that a good way to think about an argumentative essay is you're a trial attorney. If you're defending a client, let's say on a murder charge, the first thing you need to do is take a stance. Right? That's your main point. The stance could be just simply, Jimmy is not guilty of murder. Okay, that's the stance. An argumentative essay is set up with a pro or con situation. So it's not open-ended. You have one or the other. If you're on trial for murder, for the most part, you're either not guilty or guilty. You have to pick a stance and support that stance. So if the lawyer comes in and just says, my client Jimmy is not guilty of murder, I rest my case. That's probably not going to sit very well with the jury. They heard your main point, but why should they believe you? Where's the supporting evidence? It's not there. So not only do you have to take a stance where you clearly state your main objective, but then you have to give reasons. For this essay, you'll be giving 3 supporting reasons. So for example, one of them could be Jimmy is not guilty of murder because he did not know the victim. Jimmy is not guilty of this murder because he was not in the state of Michigan at the time of the murder. And maybe reason number 3 is Jimmy is not guilty of this murder because he does not own a firearm. Okay? And I'm just making these off the top of my head, so it might not be perfect logic, but for the sake of this video, it works. So we have the stance. Jimmy is not guilty of murder. We have 3 reasons. Right? But again, if that's all the attorney gives, the jury's going to be sitting there saying, okay, this attorney doesn't believe his client is guilty, and he gives some reasons, but how do we know those reasons are true? All right? So when you're writing an essay, or if you're a trial attorney, yes, you have to give your main point. You have to give reasons, but then you need to support those reasons. That's where your quotes are going to come in. So again, going back to the attorney, Jimmy is not guilty of murder. That's your stance. First reason, Jimmy was not in the state of Michigan at the time of the murder. Okay, very good point. The jury's going to be thinking, how do we know that's true? So in this situation, the lawyer could bring up maybe a receipt from a hotel from where Jimmy was actually in the state of Florida. He could bring in Jimmy's best friend who he traveled to Florida with on vacation to give testimony. He could provide possibly video footage of him eating in a restaurant at the approximate time of the murder, thousands of miles away from where the crime scene was. That's all very good evidence to support that reason. All right, so when you're writing your essay, I want you to keep in mind, the most important part is to have a strong stance. Okay? Are you pro or con to the statement? But then you need to support it with reasons. And all of those reasons need to be supported with evidence. Another portion of the argumentative essay that sometimes causes confusion for students is the counterclaim and rebuttal paragraph. This is where you kind of give a little bit of credibility to the opposing side. All right, but you want to be careful. If when you're giving them some credibility, you realize that their case is stronger than yours, you have to rethink your entire stance. And what this does, it gives you more credibility. Because in order for it to be a quality argumentative essay topic, it should be something that can be debated on either side. Right? There's not a clear right or wrong. So in the case of the trial we're talking about, your counterclaim could be something along the lines of my fellow attorney argues that Jimmy is guilty of this murder. He brings up the point that Jimmy and the victim, Eric, were not friends. They did not like each other. Okay, that's the counterclaim. All right, that kind of gives the other side a little bit of support. But then you need to follow that up with a rebuttal. But then you need to say, all right, although I concede this part, it's still not true in the big picture. So again, my fellow attorney argues that Jimmy is guilty of the murder. And one of the biggest reasons he brings up is that Jimmy and the victim did not like each other. Although this point is correct, there are many people who don't like each other. That doesn't mean that they murder each other. And the evidence that I've given strongly supports that Jimmy didn't have the capability of committing the murder. He was out of the state. He didn't have a weapon. Okay, so on and so on. So in the counterclaim rebuttal, you are acknowledging the other side, all right? But then you're giving a rebuttal, all right? So although I know this is true, I'm still right because of this, this, and this. So in essence, those are the main points of an argumentative essay. Your stance, your reasons, your support, your counterclaim, and the rebuttal. All right, there's a few other nuances, all right, that we'll work on throughout the weeks. All right, but that's the big picture of it. We're trying to teach you how to argue your stance on something in a logical and effective way.